everybody. Welcome to my second video in my mini-series of IELTS test tips that I've created alongside We Love IELTS, Cambridge's platform for those who are preparing for the IELTS test. And today I'm giving you my 4 best tips to achieve success in the writing paper. Before we get going, if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to hit subscribe. This means you'll never miss out on any of our great videos. So, let's begin by recapping on what the writing paper consists of. There are 2 tasks in both the academic and general training test. In task 1 of the general training test, you have to write a letter in response to a problem or situation. However, in task 1 of the academic test, you have to describe some visual information, such as a diagram or graph. Then, for both tests in task 2, you must write an essay, though the topics will be different. Okay, now we've covered the structure of the paper, let's move on to my tips. So, my first tip is to know the marking criteria. Just think, wouldn't it be great if you knew what the examiners were looking for? Well, I can tell you that now. Examiners use 4 criteria to assess your writing. Task achievement for task 1 or task response for task 2, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, and grammar range and accuracy. And you can download the assessment criteria from the IELTS website. Occasionally, some of my students have told me that the assessment criteria is a bit difficult to interpret sometimes. If this is the case for you, I'd ask your teacher to give you some good examples of the 4 criteria, just to make it a bit more real for you. Or another good way of seeing how the criteria are applied is to download example examiner comments from the official IELTS website. Additionally, the IELTS practice tests all come with sample answers at different levels. My next tip is to use formal writing conventions. In the academic writing test, task 2 is always a formal piece of writing, and task 1 can be a formal piece of writing as well. So, to complete successfully, especially task 2, I'd recommend learning about and using formal writing conventions. Although there are many different formal writing conventions, the 4 areas that my students particularly struggle with are: always use the full form rather than contractions. For example, use has not instead of hasn't. Use appropriate punctuation. For example, don't use exclamation marks or ellipsis and use single question marks. Avoid overuse of figurative language, for example, idioms or metaphors, and use the passive instead of the active where possible. For example, it has been built by the government. Of course, use these conventions correctly wherever possible in your next piece of writing. Or you could take a previous piece of writing and then upgrade it by using any new formal writing conventions that you have learnt. My third tip is to connect your writing. With my students, a problem that I regularly see in their IELTS writing is that their ideas don't quite connect together. They can use some really good language, however, without any flow. Have a look at this example. A common consensus would be to talk to the school counsellor. They can help you identify problems. They may not be someone you know, but they are trained in this area. You see, it's just lacking some rhythm and flow to it. But now look at it when we connect it a bit better. Having said that, a common consensus would be to talk to the school counsellor, who can help you identify your problems. Although they may not be someone you know, they are trained in this area. Do you see the difference? Although most of the language is the same, with just a few connecting devices, it reads much better. I've used a transitional phrase here, a relative pronoun here, and a conjunction here. In doing this, I have also created some subordinate clauses here and here. So those are just 4 examples of connecting devices, but there are also many more out there for you to use as well. And so, on to my last tip. Plan. My old boss used to always say, those who fail to plan, plan to fail. While I'm sure it's not true for absolutely everybody, doing a writing without planning it first can be dangerous. Your ideas might not link, you might repeat yourself, you might not answer the question. Simply, there are many things that can go wrong. So, I would always recommend planning before doing an IELTS writing task. It could be a very simple plan, like simply just a list of points you're going to make in each paragraph. However, remember, the writing task is only 1 hour long, so don't spend too much time planning. The key is finding what type of plan works for you in the time available. Okay, let's recap. So, there we go. I really hope these tips help you when preparing for your IELTS writing test. Don't forget, for more test tips and resources, check out the We Love IELTS website. The link is below the video. Also, as mentioned before, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I'd also love to hear your tips. If you have any other tips or advice on how to prepare for the IELTS writing test, please comment below. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time for more IELTS tips.